we're going to introduce you in. Betty, again, everyone, Betty is one of the co-founders of PASG, the Pacific Autism Support Group, and it is a real honor to have you, a real privilege to have you here, Betty. So, you know, last speaker, no pressure, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to ask Corey to bring you in, to introduce you in. Corey, thank you. Corey from Cluster 10, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. My name is Corey. It is my honor to introduce our next speaker, Betty. Betty is of Samoan descent from the villages of Faleali'i and Sava'i, and she has 3 handsome boys, and their eldest son, Roman, was diagnosed with autism spectrum at the age of 4. Betty and her husband founded the Pasifika Autism Support Group to provide support and information for Pasifika families, including their own, and has worked tirelessly advocating for the many families in the support group. Betty and Brian were motivated to develop this group because of their experiences with Roman. We look forward to hearing about Betty's journey on raising awareness of autism in the Pasifika communities. Ka huri kia koe, Betty.
Thank you for the introduction, Corey. So I think I just have to share my PowerPoint. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes. Yes. We'll guide you through.
Oh, yeah.
Just share your screen.
Yep.
I can't see.
Looking good. Perfect.
Awesome.
And then just present it here.
And you're coming through clear, Betty, so don't worry about sound. I'm sure you're coming through clear. Everyone, is she coming through clear, please? Real quick reaction.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. We got the thumbs up. We got thumbs.
Thank you. So I'll start. I le suafa manumalo Yesu Keriso o te whaatalofa atu le paia ma le mamalu ua awhanga potopoto I le nei aso. Malo le soifua maua ma le langi e mama o lo ingoa o Betty Pulefolau-Kolose o te sau mai le nuu siwhanga savei ma le salisa te le Faleali'i. So warm Pasifika greetings, tēnā koutou katoa. My name is Betty Pulefolau-Kolose, and firstly I just want to say thank you for the invitation to share my family's journey with autism here with you all today. So I'm from the villages of Siwhanga, Sava'i and Salisatele Faleali'i. I was born and raised, and I'm still living here in Papakura, Tamaki Makaurau. There is a saying to never forget where you come from and what your descendants had to go through just for you to get where you are today. And that's why it's really important for me to acknowledge my parents and their journey from Samoa to Auckland in the 1960s. And unfortunately, both my parents have both passed away. So my faith, my belief in my Heavenly Father, Jesus Christ as my Saviour, is the essence and the foundation of my family. Family, ainga, mangawhaua is an important part of my culture and my identity. It is the essence of who I am and my values. I'm married. My husband is Niuean from the village of Mutalau and Alofi, and we have 3 sons, Roman, 19, Joel, 18, and Zechariah, 16. That last photo was just of both of my mum and my mother-in-law. The journey with autism impacted, touched, educated, and blessed my family 16 years ago when my eldest son Roman was diagnosed at 3.5 years old on the autism spectrum disorder. The pediatrician told us that our son will never talk, and his report sounded very doom and gloom. And I guess that's where our faith kicked in, and we just declared Jeremiah 29 verse 11 over our son. God's plan for my son is to give him a hope and a future. We had so many questions, yet no one was available for us after the diagnosis to help us navigate what is autism. What does it look like for my son? We were given a list of support services and had to follow them up ourselves. Our families, especially my mum and my mother-in-law, they were the strongest support for us. They really helped us with respite and a lot of babysitting duties. So what is autism? Autism is a lifelong neurodevelopment condition that affects how autistic people perceive the world, think and behave, and communicate and interact with others. Autistic people see, hear, and feel the world differently to others. Autism affects approximately 93,000 New Zealanders. The first few years of our son being diagnosed, we attended many workshops because at the time we were told we didn't actually know what autism was. One of the programs that we attended was called the Early Bird program, which is an early intervention program for parents and caregivers. The 3-month Saturday program combined group training sessions with individual home visits. Video feedback was used to help family members apply what they learnt during the program. This program suited my family as we were able to bring all our kids to the workshop, and someone was there to look after them. There was a group of people while my husband and I attended the workshop. We learnt strategies on how to engage with our son, as well as understand what his social, his sensory issues and challenges were. So my son's learning journey, my husband and I chose mainstream schooling for our son. He was Oz funded, and we had 2 other sons that were also at school, so we wanted to keep all 3 boys together at the primary school. I approached the principal when my son was at ECE, and I told him that I want to enroll my son, and he was on the autism spectrum. The principal was very warm and welcoming, and I could see from his body language he was genuine. Unfortunately, he was only there for 1 year. And you will know with Oz funding, it only funds probably a few hours a day, but we were very fortunate with this principal. He funded my son. We had funding for the whole year. He had a teacher aide with him full time from the beginning to the end of the day. The second principal that came along, let's just say that she wasn't as warm and receptive as the previous principal. She called us numerous times regarding my son's behavior. However, I had to advocate because my son at the time was non-verbal, and he actually didn't start talking till maybe the age of 7, and to start with, it was a lot of echolalia. I knew that my son, under the Education and Training Act, that he had a right to access school. He had a right to be there at this local primary school, and that inclusive education should be available for him. I knew my son, his behavior issues happened at school was based on his frustration to communicate, or he was being misunderstood. Teacher and teacher's aide did not have the knowledge about autism, at times lacked empathy to understand how autism affected my son and what his social and communication challenges were. What hurt the most was there was a lack of mana enhancing for my son. When you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And at the time, for my family household, my husband worked night shift and I worked day shift, so that there was someone always there for our children. Also, my husband was on the board of trustees for my son's primary school, and he found it very challenging. I mean, he was even told that you can't advocate for your son. There are so many stories I could share about my son's educational journey and how the system failed him. However, I'm here to hopefully open up your minds and hearts and to shift your perspective of children with autism. There are so many myths out there, and one of them that just comes to mind is about that children, autistic children, do not want to socially connect, which is untrue. Our children want to connect, develop friendships, and be part of the school environment. Individuals with ASD can and do have fulfilling relationships with family and friends. So what we found really helped our son, just below are a few strategies that has helped him, and I've seen it's helped many of our children. The akonga needs to feel connected, to have a sense of belonging in the classroom before learning can happen. So firstly, learn about the akonga and build relationships with the akonga and their family. Maybe get to know the family. Is it a busy household? Do they have other commitment? What are the best way of communicating with them? Is it through email, telephone? It could even be a face-to-face visit. Positive family relationships are important for families with autistic children. Positive family relationships help all children feel secure and loved, which is good for their development. And they also help families handle challenges. Use visual aids for schedules. So for example, what is the schedule or the timetable for the day? And if you have visual cards or photographs, symbols, to help the child recognize what is going to be happening next. I mean, for them, it's quite hard to follow, like, just by telling them, okay, this is our timetable. You actually need to show them visually. Now, create accommodations for stimming behavior and movement. Stimming is a repetitive or an unusual body movement or noises, and it can include like hand flapping, finger flicking, clapping, but these stim actually helps them to adapt to the environment. It actually helps them to calm down and feel safe. Recognize their strengths and differences. So with strengths could be their interests, could be like trains, dinosaurs, favorite songs, and can use those in the class setting. Like I remember with primary school in the early years, they use trains for counting. So they put a lot of trains or photographs of trains in front of my son just to help him to do counting, adding, addition, and taking subtraction. Accept and understand akonga as unique individuals. As I said earlier, when you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. The experience that we went through during my son's early years and what other Pasifika families faced, their challenges included engaging and navigating the service providers, not included in the decision making for their children in the education setting, even the choice of the school. I've heard of one parent who said that their child was enrolled after ECE. They were enrolled into a special school, but they actually wanted to enroll their child into the primary just down the road. So I think decision making, I think sometimes it's taken away from the parents. The perception that parents are not wanting to partner with the schools to support their child. These are the challenges that we face, and parents feeling lost and confused about the diagnosis process, what happens after, or what support's in place for their children. All these challenges and our experiences prompted my husband and I, and my sister-in-law, who was at the time working for autism service provider, and the support of our extended family, we then decided to set up Pasifika Autism Support Group, or PASG. We wondered how were other families feeling. There were times that we went into a lot of workshops and we were the only Pasifika families at those workshops. So February 2011, we took a great step of faith and had our first PASG meeting. We had 2 families, And we had our current pastor then to bless our group. We now have a membership of probably about 75 families in Auckland, and we even have a passage group in Wellington. We're about 50 families, and we're just starting to start a group in Christchurch. So the purpose of our Pasifika Autism Support Group is to advance the overall quality of every Pasifika family child living with autism, and to enable all families with knowledge to take action to encourage their child's holistic development, reach their full potential by providing unique strength-based child and family-centered services. We're devoted to raise awareness of autism and acceptance of autism especially in our Pasifika communities. And that's like, for example, for us, our church, you know, we had to let our friends and our church family know that our child has the autism, and that's why, just to explain why he does some of the behavior. I still remember one time when he was probably under 5, and the pastor was preaching, and he walked right up to the pulpit, and he put his hands over his ears, and everyone laughed because it looked like maybe he didn't want to hear what the pastor was saying, but to us it was like, for him, he was just probably overloaded with sounds, not just the pastor's voice, but maybe the sound that was in the church. And lastly, I've mentioned about how we've started our other branches. It wasn't just in Auckland, but now Wellington and hopefully Christchurch soon. I think what happened in Wellington, when I spoke at a Altogether Autism workshop in Wellington, and one of the Pasifika families that were there approached us afterwards, and they said they wanted a Pasifika Autism Support Group in Wellington, and so that's where the opportunity started. So we run 4 meetings a year. This is a face-to-face meeting. We're really blessed that Somerville School has actually opened up their doors for us to meet at the school, use the school hall. We actually started from a small room, but this year we had to use the hall because there's so many families that have been attending our meetings. We also do social events, and I'll explain about those later on. Creating inclusive experiences or events help understanding and acceptance, increases the opportunity for social learning and improve outcomes for our children with autism. So our Passage meeting is like a one-stop community hub. We provide guest speakers who come in and talk to our families. Instead of telling our families, oh, you can find this service over here, this is their contact details, we've actually brought our guest speakers, those service providers, we have brought them into our meeting, our space, and then they'll be able to talk to the parents, have that face-to-face talanoa. Our most newly diagnosed children and their families will require a navigator to help them on their journey. Let families know that they are not alone. Families are unaware where to go, so that's why it's easier if we bring the service support to our meetings. Some hospitals in Auckland have ASD coordinators. This was not available when my son was diagnosed, and so it's really good that they've actually improved some of their changes over the years, the health sector. So these are just some of the guest speakers that we've had over the years. And I'd like to mention the Acorn Autism Trust, which is the one down the bottom. They've partnered with us, and because speech therapists, it costs money, and that's something that I couldn't have available for my son when he was first diagnosed. And even though we were always funded, we didn't have a speech therapist there to help us. We did have connection with an occupational therapist, but she was only there to help my son how to hold a pencil. I mean, I actually bought my son one of those little, the rubber stuff, you know, just to help him use his fingers, because those were one of his challenges. It took him, just couldn't write. He's challenged. It was so hard, took him so long just to try and write. And we try to let the teachers know, you know, he's faster on a laptop. He can actually type quicker than trying to give him a pen or pencil to try and get him to write. So in 2018, Reverend Martin and Toreka Mariota helped us start up Wellington PASG group. Just like Auckland, the Wellington families were wanting support and direction on how to navigate support services. There is a difference on what services are available in Auckland and in Wellington. Last year, we had a change of leaders due to Reverend Martin and Toreka coming up here to Auckland. So now Wellington is led by Daniel and Anna Filimoni. Now, this is just an example of what our families, where they need to go for different services and what is out there for them. And to be honest, there's just too many. This was just a very, very basic one. I asked Altogether Autism to draw up a diagram because our families did not know where to go. Even I didn't know where to go. And so some of the things we're still learning now that we didn't know back when our son was first diagnosed. And it actually is just you're totally lost. I mean, after the first one, which could be even just going to be diagnosed and then applying for respite care for Taikura Trust, I mean, by then, I think a lot of parents give up. And that's why Pasifika families are actually the lowest families in accessing services in New Zealand to help support their children. So PASG has created and developed inclusive experiences or events that includes the whole family, which helps understanding and acceptance of autism, which increases the opportunity for social learning. So some of our events are movies. This is a low century movie where the lights are, they are still left on, and our children are free just to wander or you know, do their own thing. Stimming for them, they could be flapping their hands when they're really excited about something that they've seen on the movie. You know, they could be singing and joining in with the movie, you know, what's on the movie. That's what this inclusive movie setting looks for us. We have access, we do events for silent disco. This is one of our new events that we just started last year and this year. And just the photo on the right, you can see one of our little girls, she's got the earphones. It's special earphones where there are 4 stations that you can choose songs from. And one station is specifically for our children, their favorite Disney songs. And some of the other songs are more for the parents. And we chose the songs, what could be there, because we knew that's what the parents liked. And they were just pretty much dancing to whatever they were listening to. So everyone will be dancing to different songs, and it just looked really inclusive. You see so much joy there for especially our children. This is a favorite event that we actually did it again this year. And for the first time, we did one of these events in Wellington as well. We also get tickets to Fun Fest or the special Christmas party. We also had an event at the Botanical Garden, which is a local, you know, it's very local. And I think because a lot of our families actually don't take their kids out because of their sensory issues. They think, oh, they're just best stayed at home. But actually, no, the way for them to get to explore and to connect with these places in our community is actually to bring them out. That's the same thing with our churches. There's, you know, I mean, just challenges. If our families face challenges, they always come and ask us, how do we approach the leaders, our church leaders? How do we approach our family who always say, shh, shh, like this to my child, you know? And we just, we help the families, and actually give them knowledge so they be empowered. There's nothing to be ashamed of with having a child on the spectrum. April is our busiest month, where we hold a number of events to raise awareness and acceptance of autism and how it affects families. We have events in Auckland and Wellington. So Autism Awareness World Day is actually the 2nd of April. And we make sure we always have an event on that day, if possible. So this year was the first time we launched our Pasifika, our Autism Journeys book. This is where families have shared their lessons, hopes and dreams of autism awareness and acceptance. And it was about 6 families, I think. And the families are from Auckland and Wellington. So yeah, it was launched this year on World Autism Day. It is the very first kind of book, the very first of its kind here in New Zealand, to be able to capture the stories of not just one particular generation. It has stories from the Pasifika autistic children themselves, as well as parents and grandparents. And another way, one of our families in Wellington, because they're into their fitness journey, and they had an extreme hip hop a day, and a lot of their families and friends came and donated to Pasifika, to PASG. So, but it also helped raise awareness, and some of the Wellington families shared before this event started, shared that what autism looks like for them and their family. I guess the main challenge with running this type of support group is funding. So over the years, we've actually pretty much funded our own events from our own pockets. And then we had received training grants for some parents to attend conferences by Altogether Autism and Autism New Zealand. So yeah, funding was from Te Po. But however, we've been grateful in the last 2 years, we have been fortunate to receive funds from MSD, Foundation North, Mapu Maya, Fountain of Knowledge Trust, and Te Whatu Ora. So yeah, we couldn't have done our events getting a bit bigger and expensive, so we couldn't have done it without the funding from these organisations. And lastly, sorry, I'm not quite sure what the time is like, if I've gone too fast or I've taken over too much time.
No, Betty, you're fine. You're fine.
So, but this is just our contact details, our Facebook. I did have a video, but yeah, it was just about our PASG group when we first started. Sandra Kalahi came and did a big interviewed some of our families, myself, Brian, and it actually showed Roman catching a train from Papakura to Auckland City, and Roman at the time was probably only 7 or 8 years, and you could see the excitement. He just loves the train. I used to work in the city one time when the boys were probably, were they still maybe started school 6, 5, and 3, and they used to every Fridays. That's when Brian was a stay-at-home dad. He would they would catch the train to me, and I kind of worked right up near the top of Queen Street, and they'll catch the train and from Biruma to Biruma, and then catch a bus from Biruma up. And to be honest, my son is no longer at school. He did 2 years of year 13 at a local high school, but unfortunately they just gave us no support, or didn't support us or help us in where to transition him from high school. So at the moment he's looking, he wants to work. He's done a few contract work with a construction site, who happened to be on the same site as where my husband works. And so my husband told, can you give my son, asked if they could give my son a job. And, you could see the sense of satisfaction that he was going to work every morning. and getting paid, but it was only a contract job. He was there for about 4 months. So now he's just, you know, looking around, and there are programs out there for my son, but I just don't want him to do a program for the sake of doing the program. He loves trains. His dream could come true, you never know, but his dream is to actually drive a train. Yeah, that's my son's dream. That's his goal. So yeah, I've mentioned there, if you meet one person with autism, you've met one person. And I think lastly, I just want to close off with a quote from the movie, The Accountant movie. I think this is when a psychologist was talking to the father. Your expectations for your son may change over time. They might include marriage, children, career, they might not. But I guarantee you, if you let the world set expectations for your child, they'll start low and they'll stay there. And maybe, just maybe, he doesn't understand how to tell us, or we haven't learnt how to listen to him. Okay, te lava. That's all from me.
Betty, thank you so much. I think, you know, when I met you some weeks ago and you were sharing your story, I was thinking, well, you just described my son's journey. My son also has autism, and he's in year 7. I think the challenge is that, you know, he was very lucky in primary school. He had the support he got, and he got the support. I think the challenge now is, now that he's in secondary, he's in from year 7 to 13, you just notice a difference. And I guess that's the challenge that parents with kids on the spectrum face when they grow older.
Yes.
So, you know, the mahi that you've done in supporting our Pacific families to provide as much information for them, because, you know, they only know what they know.
Yes.
And we appreciate, sorry, there I am. We appreciate what, you know, all that you've done. Really, we really do. We've got some questions here. So
do you want me to show the video and then you can do the questions?
I hope, yeah, that would be great. If everyone else doesn't mind. I think it'll be really
They don't
good
mind.
to see. Okay, cool.
Okay, let me try and show the video first. Okay, so you can see that.
Yeah, I've just had my son call me on the phone. Dad, when are you picking me up? Okay. Okay.
Oh, it's only 1 o'clock. Okay.
I
ready?
know.
You hear that?
Autism, it's a disorder that's not really known in many of our Pacific communities, but 1 in 88 New Zealanders are affected, which equates to around 50,000 people.
A Pacific couple found there wasn't an agency designed specifically for Pacific people, so they set up their own support service. Sandra Kailahi met them and their special son.
My name's Brian, and this is my son Roman. And Roman is 8 years old, and he was diagnosed with autism 4 years ago. And so this is basically our journey. He's a great kid. Roman, what do you like? You like DVDs?
Yes.
Yeah. What else do you like?
Eating some food.
Yeah. What's your favourite food then?
Wendy's.
You like Wendy's?
Yeah.
What's your favourite burger at Wendy's?
Cheese, bacon, burger.
Autism. We've heard of it, but very few understand it. It's a developmental disorder that affects the way children and adults communicate and interact socially. Diagnosing autism is not straightforward because of the range of severity. That's why it's often referred to as ASD, Autism Spectrum Disorder. Those who have ASD look the same as other people, but they may act or communicate differently.
I guess Ross, it was probably when he was about 2.5, you know, just the stories between other friends and families, you know, with their young children as well. They asked, is Roman doing this, is Roman doing that? And we watched that his behaviour was just a little bit different from everyone else.
Listen, you giggles. And now, that's our program.
But it wasn't until he reached 3.5 that we went to see the doctors, and she responded to a noise that Roman made, which was a high-pitched noise, was like, ah! A scream sort of thing, and she knew straight away that you know, our son had a trait of autism.
Yeah. What games do you like playing with Zach?
Kindergarten.
I think even before he was diagnosed, my wife had a strong feeling that it was autism, you know, and she Googled things like Thomas the Tank Engine, and there are little snippets on their website that speak about autism But for both Betty and I, we were absolutely devastated because we didn't really know, one, what it was, and two, how to actually deal with it. Oh, yeah. We didn't really get much help too at the time. You know, we thought that we'd get some sort of kit to say, okay, this is what it is and this is what we have to do. But we didn't realise that it's going to change our whole life.
SG 1211. I don't understand anything.
Brian and Betty were told Roman wouldn't talk, ride a bike or go to school. But they fought hard and now he goes to a mainstream school in Papakura and does things like most kids. But that's because of the sacrifice they made.
I guess over a space of 6 years, Betty and I did it really hard where we wouldn't really see each other. With Betty working day shift and myself working night shift. That's our train 305. Where? Newmarket. That's where we go, the Newmarket. But for me, like, a decision needed to be made to really focus on my children. Yeah, and just focus on trying to get that quality of life back. Yeah, and you know, I'm glad I made that decision too. A lot of it was sacrifice and having to have the father figure at home, and I really enjoy it too. I mean, like being the full-time father, yeah, and you know, being there for the kids at school, and just making my son's steps through home and school a bit more pleasant. Because I can imagine his anxiety, you know, particularly when starting school. And if I gave it his way, you know, his experience wouldn't be that great. He wouldn't want to be in school. But you know, being consistent, you know, in his routine or in their routine has helped us, you know, bridge a lot of gaps.
The couple decided to have more children, 2 boys who are great friends and support for Roman. But they also saw there was a real need for something specifically Pacific. They started the Pacific Autism Support Group, or PASG.
Our experience was that being a part of Autism New Zealand's AGM, you know, group meetings, all that sort of stuff, we felt a bit isolated being the only Pacific Island families participating in it. There should be a lot more people participating, you know, in these AGM group meetings. But for my wife and I, just to be the only parents there 2 years in a row, there's something going on. You know, we were only, you know, challenged, but just inspired to do something for our own people as well.
It's been a lifesaver for other Pacific parents.
Starting to ask questions is the best thing you could do. Is I think as Polynesians, brownies, you just think, oh, you know, if the kid's not acting right, it's something ulavale, or if, you know, he's just been playing up or something.
I've come today because my son's autistic, and it's just a support group for me, I'd say. Yeah, for me as a parent. So. And being Pacific Islander, just to come and be with some people that understand what I'm going through or what I've been through and what I'm going to go through. We're accepted, doesn't matter, you know, whether my son is screaming at the top of his lungs or if he just doesn't want to interact with anybody. And it's just somewhere where we can just talk about, and I can ask questions and just find out new things that I probably wouldn't find out anywhere else.
The Pulefolau's personal journey with an autistic child has had its challenges, but it's brought them closer together, and now they want to help other families understand the condition.
There is no word for autism in our Pacific languages. I guess it'll be the bad stuff that you know that they would say, you know, like in a way, and it's like uluoka, ulukawhilo. You know, we wanted to work against that and say, well, this is what it is, and this is what we have to do for it.
Everyone's on board now, but it's been a long time coming as to understanding what he has and being able to get on board that what we need to do is to benefit him. You know, the boundaries, the restrictions, or whatever we need to do for him is going to benefit him in the long run.
So yeah, if you want any kind of education that's free.
The Pacific Autism Support Group is run entirely from the generosity of Brian, Betty and their family. They meet bi-monthly in Mount Wellington. They're even on Facebook and are always looking to help others going through a similar journey.
I guess from a father's point of view, and you do come across, you know, a friend, a family member that has a child with ASD, you know, show them some love, eh? Give the brother a handshake and a hug, you know, and, you know, particularly if they're struggling, you know, just have a bit of patience for them. It could be the difference between getting good progress and good feedback from them or them closing themselves off from everyone else.
Amazing, 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 amazing. What I'm going to add, Betty, we're going to go into Q&A if you're okay with that.
Yes.
And I think one of the questions that was actually answered on that video, Brenda mentioned, is there a specific word for autism, as there is now in Te Reo? And I'm guessing no, there isn't. I'm not sure why that is, whether our Pacific nations have actually acknowledged that autism is out there in our community. It's very rarely talked about, and dare I say, it's actually swept under the carpet in most families. Anyway, moving towards some questions here. We've got a question from Rangimaria Maxted, sorry. Forgive me if I pronounced your name wrong. She mentions that you guys are amazing, and this is what every school needs. Her first question is, how can we let parents know about PASG? Which I think is quite important.
Yes, just on that last slide, we had I put up the Facebook address. So we there's a flyer also on our Facebook. We put out dates. I think when that video was first taken, we actually did meet more often, regular, like monthly. But I think as things got we've been really busy. In Auckland, we do have a group of parents, especially mums, who are actually part of a committee to help our to run our meetings, and that's why it's only 4 meetings a year. But on our Facebook, we will advertise other social events like our movies or other events that we'll have to invite. So I guess the first place is to go to the Facebook page. Okay. The flyer is probably further down. I can repost the flyer, or I can email the flyer out to, and you can print it off and give it to the parents, the flyer of our meetings of when we...
I think we'll send out that flyer on your behalf through our
thank you,
through our clusters. She's also mentioned, is there a process that you need to go through to start PASG? So is there a process? I
don't know, when we first there was one time we put it on the courier when we started our PASG. I've heard of other schools that wanted support for their parents in the school, and I went to the first meeting, and then it was just a way to activate parents to come together to meet, and they've got their own support group in their school. It doesn't have just to be Pasifika. I mean, I've seen there's a Chinese support group out there, Autism Support Group. I think there's an Indian, but definitely it's just for parents. Once they know who's on the same journey, they will want to come together. And even some groups start with just coffee, but our one has to include our children, because realistically our parents can't go, can't leave them. There's not many choices for babysitters out there. And it's also a trust factor, because even though we've got families, some of them still don't understand how to support a child, and they'll either be growled at for being naughty, or especially if they're active, there's a lot of issues that could be, that challenges that child could have. So our events always include our children. There are we put out sensory toys for our children. They just play with. Our guest speakers understand that there are children there, so it can be noisy. It's not just, you're not going to get a quiet audience. No, families there. We always provide morning tea. It's our way of hospitality, and all our families are now bringing plates, just coming with their plates.
Oh, that's great. Awesome.
Also, kids have different favorite foods.
Very family feeling that you bring in. That's awesome. We've got Kath Dyson who says, what's the most important thing you've actually learned from setting up PASG?
I think I had to, for me as a mother, as a wife, there was a lot of things that I learned. I had to slow down. I learned a lot of things from my son. I actually changed the way I bring up my kids. It's not the same way my parents raised me. I mean, just in some of the hard ways of maybe discipline. And listening to the child's voice, especially even my other 2 kids who are not autistic. That's one thing that has really changed me as a parent.
So we've got Joe said, how can we point our whānau in our classes in your direction? I think the website, I think the Facebook website will, we will definitely send out the link there. I think Tanya, we got Tanya says, I think Q&A just lit up, you know, the moment they were watching the video, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh. Tanya says that, and as a mum of a 4.5-year-old on the spectrum, thank you for all your hard work. She does acknowledge your mahi. She's also asking, how have families in Ainga youth support found the process of diagnosis? Has it been culturally enhancing? So I agree with her on that question. Has it been culturally enhancing? Has the diagnosis, do pediatricians have they been culturally responsive to their diagnosis?
Okay, so this year, one of our parents has just done her doctorate, her PhD, Rochelle Neftali, and she actually did the study on some of our families during COVID, and her presentation, or the result or the data from her findings, research, she's actually done workshops with special services, with the service providers. I think our last one was just last month. She was at Waikaha, and there was a lot of services. This was in Wellington, so a lot of the professionals from Wellington came to listen to her presentation. So she's also doing that on the side. You know, we're just going out to talk to the parents, but also talk to specialists, those who work with our children, you know, and pretty much tell them what they're doing and what they're not doing, you know, and that a lot of it's culturally, they have this myth that parents don't really want support. So, but it's really them not connecting the right way with our families. They rely too much on maybe emails and no phone call or no face-to-face talanoa. That's the most, especially for our parents who English is second language, they need the face-to-face talanoa.
That's right.
And can I just add, because I just heard a 4.5, I also, one of my hats that I wear, I'm a ECE teacher. And one thing that I've learned, it's really important to get children early, diagnosed really early. So I understand the signs, and working in ECE, my room is for 1.5 and 2s, and I've already seen signs of kids. And just having those courageous conversations with those parents, to see if, you know, do they have concern for that child that's showing signs of autism. So I found my career or my mission field, and that's in the ECE space.
Big ups to you, Betty. Last question, I think this is, I have to ask this one because it actually is a valid question from Lali Sefel. She says, what advice would you actually give to a family who refuse to acknowledge that their child has been diagnosed with autism because they don't want him to have that label? And I think as part of our casework, and RTLBs have come across that situation quite a lot.
Yeah.
Where they've struggled to connect with families who, you know, there is a possibility, but families, Fono, don't want to engage.
I think the important thing is to let families know that you are there to support their akonga, that child, and sometimes in order to be support, they need to have a label. There's nothing wrong with a label, it's more there to support that child. I think to start off, it's good that you really need to form that relationship or that connection with the family, because when there's that connection, there's a trust, and then almost like they'll be able to hear what you're kind of saying. But if they don't really know you or don't have that relationship first, it'll be hard to have that talanoa about their learning and what challenges they have in the school. If that helps.
Sorry, last question. It's actually not a question. My son wants to be a bus driver. So I'm guessing they'll probably see each other passing through the subway, you know, one bus going that way and the train going the other way. So
yeah, I was going to just quickly add, Roman at the moment, because he's got so much time on his hand, he knows how to navigate the Auckland transport. He's on the bus, he's on the train by himself during the day. He goes all the way up to Albany, you know, from south, and then he's coming back, or he'll meet me in Manukau and goes, oh Mum, I'm at the mall, can you pick me up after work? And
that's amazing.
So I can't understand that, because even I don't know how to use a hop card.
I've never used one. I've actually haven't seen one in a while, so I use Betty. Thank you and the mahi that Passage is doing. You and your husband, you're both amazing. You have an amazing family. I'm guessing, was that Roman in the background? No.
Oh, yes.
I knew it. I knew it. Sorry.
It was like I was trying to. I've told you I'm.
I was actually texting Brian saying, "Don't worry, that's Roman in the background."
Yeah.
I'm going to pass it on to Corey. She's going to wrap things up. But thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, Corey. Thank you, Corey.
Betty, on behalf of Tōtai Pacific RTLB, we just want to say whaftai, whaftai, whaftai te le lawa. Jeremiah 17:7, it says, "Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord." So thank you for your strength through the challenges and barriers in your journey. I loved how you shared that autism touched, educated, and taught your family, because I feel like in some of our Pasifika families at the moment, understanding and acceptance isn't something that comes so easy. I loved how your testimony tied in with the principles of tapasa, how you need to get to know your learner and your whānau. You said it several times, when you have met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And I truly believe that and vouch for that. So thank you so much for the impact and influence you have on our Pasifika families around the motu. And we've been so blessed with the taonga of Pasifika book. Thank you so much. Just on a personal level, I've got 3 of my family members. I've got a cousin and another cousin who are part of your program, and they love having that village around them and that support. So on behalf of everyone, thank you so much. And I'm definitely looking out for my invite for the silent disco.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Corey.